We were going to talk a little bit about doing hard things. And we saw a clip that was pretty cool where it talks about like, I don't know, that used to be the big thing of CrossFit is like doing hard stuff. And I think CrossFit's really kind of gotten away from that. And I think the whole like world in general has gotten into like really smart, intelligent training. And like, let's hit zone 2, like let's hit a cold plunge and work on our brown fats or like all this stuff. When for a lot of people, I think it's just time to like get to work and do something hard. And it can be really rewarding to do something that by the end of it, you're like, man, that was freaking hard. Like a lot of people can't do that. And so like the physical adversity, I think can be a really cool thing.
What do you think, or why do you think CrossFit has gotten away from that?
I think there comes a time where you need to start thinking about you training hard, for sure. And so I think there's been this progression where like a lot of people started CrossFit and they started doing really hard stuff and it was awesome. And they're just like, it's a time for violence. It's time to fucking just break through walls. And then I think as you progress, like a couple years down the line, you do want to start to make tweaks. But I think what's happening is we're seeing all these influencers, they're 3 years down the line and they forgot how they started. And so they're teaching like, hey, this is what you should be doing. When I think for some people, they forgot that they just fucking got to work. Like I used to do the stupidest workouts every single day and I was working hard and like killing myself. But that's how I got started. I'm not saying that's the best thing to do, but like when you're getting started, having too much thought can be overwhelming. But when you're just like, hey, here's the work, do it. I think that can be a lot easier and it lowers the barrier of entry for people. Whereas if I was to tell someone new, like, hey, I want you to do zone 2 cardio for 45 minutes. I want you to count your macros. I want you to do this. Like, you're like, what the fuck is zone 2? Like, what's zone 1? How many zones are there? Like, what's RPE mean? Like, so there's all these terms and I think they're great. But at first it's like, hey man, start running. Like, it's like what my mom did. She just started running stairs because she got fat. And it's like, she didn't ask somebody how to do it.
I think before that, she was even just walking.
Yeah, exactly. She started walking and then she started running. And so, you know, I think people get too scientific, but it's like, do the fucking work.
Yeah. I think too, I think it can get overwhelming for people. And I think that's why CrossFit is super intimidating because there's so much to it. And there's also so much on the internet that it like explains how much to CrossFit that there is. And in reality, like here at least, I've found as long as people are moving safe and they're constantly challenging themselves, that's enough for the first year, probably.
Or maybe ever.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I don't know. It was cool. There used to be a cool thing where it's just like, who can do the most work? Like we did like Murph in 120 degree weather or, you know, like, I don't know. And it feels good. Like there's not a better feeling than like doing something you know is really, really difficult and challenging is really cool. And it gives you this like sense of accomplishment. And maybe we should get back into that, more into that and like lean into
like
that.
Doing Clovis on Valentine's Day just for the fun of it.
Just do hard shit for the sake of doing hard shit instead of thinking and like, oh, I don't feel good today or whatever, you know, just like, just do something hard and challenge yourself because at the end of it, you are going to be proud of yourself. And like, that's what I always think about in the middle of workouts. Like, am I going to be proud of this performance? And I know when I leave it all out there and I push hard, I do feel proud of myself. And I think it builds character. I have a quote on our wall in there that's like, I think I'm just naturally a lazy person and that's just who I am. And I always justify not doing work because I outthink it. I'm like, no, I need to be doing high leverage work. I need to be doing, you know, smart cardio. And again, it kind of goes back to like, no, just do the work, do the basics. But the quote is, the work works on you more than you work on it.
You love that quote.
I do love that quote because I have to remind myself all the time because I always outthink it and I'm like, oh, this isn't what a CEO would do, you know? And it's like, hey, bitch, why don't you fucking answer the phone? Why don't you clean the floors?
Or actually send the fucking email that you've been meaning to send for weeks.
Yeah, or coach a really good class that's gonna make the people come back tomorrow. Instead, I'm like, oh, I've gotta do this. I'm gonna buy Bitcoin and time it right or whatever. And it's like, you're an idiot.
And you spend like 3 hours of your day researching like when the best time to buy Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
Instead of like actually being in the work and doing the uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I think the work, like it builds character. And that's what I have to remind myself because I overthink things. And sometimes just get to work, don't think about it, and just do it, you know? The work's gotta be done.
Work's gotta be done. Was there something else that you wanted to talk about in the video? I feel like you only talked for a second about like doing something that you can like hang your hat on, or like is there a time where like you like distinctly remember like doing a really 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 hard fucking workout, and was there like a defining moment? Can you like talk about that or talk about a specific workout?
I remember, again, just when I first started, and that was maybe like the most progress I was making. Of course you make progress in the beginning, but like we just did hard stuff, and we constantly were trying to do a harder thing than the last thing we did. And we were in this gym that was like grimy, and it was dirty, and it was dusty, and there was no frills. It was like 120 degrees. Like we didn't even have mats on the floor. I don't even know if our barbell spun, but like we were in there getting jacked, and like we were working really, really hard. And yeah, like those are some of my best memories with fitness. And then when you overthink it, I think it gets a little bit less fun. But I remember every time we've ever done Karen, it always seems, no, I'm not Karen. Kelly. Kelly is 5 rounds, 400 meter run, 30 wall ball shots and 30 box jumps. And every time we've ever done it, it's been like 105 degrees. And I have like 5 memories of doing Karen. Like I vividly remember them each time. And I just remember being in it and being like, not anybody can do what you're doing. Like this is special that you have the perseverance to get through this. And it's so rewarding. Like it sucked. And I just remember like you come up this ramp and it's like 10 degrees hotter. And you're just like, man, I'm a tough motherfucker. And like, this is cool. Like this is gonna help me, because if I can get through this adversity, as small as it is, it's like it's a win for your body. It is really cool. And like I literally remember the past 5 times I've done Karen or Kelly. And I have the vivid memories. Like I remember who was there. I remember one time we did it at one of the first places I ever worked out, and we had to run by a Pizza Hut every time. It was at Flex Fitness. You had to run by a Pizza Hut every single time I ran by it. I was like, I'm gonna throw up because of that smell. And then you get back in the box and it's like freaking, I never called gyms boxes, but you get back in it and it's like 10 degrees hotter in there. And it's just awesome, man. And then when you're done, you like go to your friend and you're like, we did it. Like that was tough. A lot of people would have quit and we didn't.
I remember in high school for me, volleyball was like the sport that I like really enjoyed playing, and I made the freshman team my freshman year. And a lot of my friends made either JV or varsity. And I remember being freaking pissed. And we started working out and doing CrossFit. And the workout for me was Hill Doggo. And to be honest, I can't even tell you what the fuck Hill Doggo even is. I know it was a shit ton of running, like a lot of running. And I knew that it was some form of weightlifting, like squat cleans or something. Yeah. And I remember we had to like run to the football field and back because we were doing it going into my sophomore year. And I just remember being like, most 15-year-olds aren't doing this, can't do this, won't do this. And so I was like, what am I doing? Like not taking this same approach in volleyball? Like why do I feel like I have to be like really cool, or I can't make myself look dumb? And I just remember finishing that workout and I just remember being like, man, like who else my age can do that and is willing to do that? And that was the same approach that I took going into my sophomore year, and I made varsity that year. And that's something that like always resonates with me, and that's like, maybe I won't remember the workout, but like I do remember like how hard I worked and how hard I tried, and realizing like, man, like I have the ability to trailblaze whatever life I want, and you just have to be like willing to do it.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that just shows like the work worked on you. Like it built character, doing something hard, and you're like, oh, I can do this. I can do more in another sport. Like that's huge. That's crazy. And I think I got that feeling. I started CrossFit after I finished football. But I do remember how much my confidence grew after I did CrossFit, because I was doing so much hard shit all the time. Like it really, I was like, man, I wish I would have done this in high school. Yeah. Because like that feeling that you got, like, I don't know, I felt like so much more of a badass, and I knew I could do more than what I did in high school.
Yeah.
because of all of the CrossFit that I've done. But that's so cool. I mean,
that's like agility, coordination, like all of the things that CrossFit also does for you, like strength, endurance, flexibility, like that is all pushed to the side. And we're like only talking about what it does for the mind.
I know. And there's a lot of people just that shit on CrossFit. And you can say a lot of good and bad about CrossFit. I don't think there's a perfect fitness program. Like there's just not. And there's a lot of people that like to talk crap about CrossFit because kipping pull-ups looks silly, but like it is so powerful. And it's got to help so many people because it's just like get in and work. And that's kind of a really cool thing that I think we forget about. And it's like, why are we not advertising like this is gonna, like your mindset, like it's one of the hugest benefits that I don't even think about. And like, who knows the things that I am able to do because I've done CrossFit. Like I don't even know because I take it for granted almost.
Well, and I think like, yes, a lot of people make fun of CrossFit because of the way it looks, but it's like if bodybuilding gives you confidence, if running a half marathon gives you confidence, fucking cool. Do it, and do it until it doesn't do that for you anymore.
Yeah, I think this is kind of along the same lines, but something I said to you the other day that I've just been thinking about all the time is like, when I'm in a hard workout, I always have to like reframe the situation. And so like, I'll always be like, if you slow down or if you put the barbell down, someone's gonna kill Bailey. And I literally think about that. And then like when I get off the bike, I'm like, the situation doesn't change your ability. So why not just do it? Like whenever you have that like frame of mind or like the world's gonna end if you don't do this, could you do 15 push press? It's like, the answer is yes. So then you can just do 15 push press. Like the situation does not change your ability. So it just shows we have so much more in our mind, or like so much more in our bodies when our minds are ready to quit.
Yeah.
And that's something I think about all the time too. This may be, I don't know, maybe a character builder, but I feel like it's kind of along the same context as like, you can do it. You can do more than you think.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
I do think CrossFit gives you a little bit better. I do think that is one thing that separates CrossFit from most fitness routines or like diversities of fitness, is it kind of can get you into that mindset of like, how do you push one more, like you've done this workout and your time was this, so like it's super easy to pull something like that back up even though it changes a lot. And so I think it does a better job of some of these other fitness avenues of like pulling that up and like eliciting that response. I just think people have to be willing to go there and have to be like willing to be uncomfortable. I think that's something that I struggle with now, being an adult and like not like working for something specific and thinking about fitness more in terms of like, how do I live a long time? How do I like feel confident in my body? Like those are things that are like, there's no end. And so sometimes I get into the mindset of like, well, I'm here, so like, isn't that good enough? And it's like, well, it is, and that serves you for a time, but like, you know, you have to continue to like add or push or, and I think that can be.
Well, it's kind of amazing how hard it is just to do things right. Like it is easy. A lot of times like just show up, and I think that's level one, you know, like that's the first thing. If you show up, cool, it's a win. But after a while, you do get to the point where you can show up and still half-ass it. But it's like, how much more effort is it just to do what you're supposed to do while you're here, you know? And so it can actually be a lot, like mentally it can be tough, but.
Well, and I think that happens to a lot of people, like they've never been to a gym before, right? And then they go to a gym and they get in a routine and then they move to level 2 and they're like pushing themselves and they are eating really good, and then they maybe even could get into level 3, but then they stop and they go all the way back down to level 0. And then they think like, well, I know I'm capable of level 3, so why don't I just jump up there?
Back to it, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that also can be what creates that all or nothing mentality.
Yeah.
Which that's like super tangent, but that just got me thinking of like, you can jump up, but like maintaining that and like building on it slowly is what's actually super hard. Yeah.
Well, and then maybe level 3 is not where you're supposed to be. Maybe level 1 or 2 is just where you're supposed to be in life. Like maybe it's not your goal or like your purpose or what would make you actually happy is being at this like upper level. Like you see people, like I think we get people all the time, they're like, man, I want abs. I lay out like, this is what abs
it
take.
takes.
Like, there is no secret, there is no hack, there is no formula, no one can do it for you.
Yeah.
This is how you get abs. They're like, oh, maybe I don't want abs. And I'm like, you probably don't. Like, abs are not happiness. Like, it's cool. Maybe it's cool to accomplish for a little while, but like most people aren't gonna have abs for their whole life.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, I think.
Well, and if they do, you don't really appreciate like the work. And I feel like as friends, there's a girl in our friend group, Reagan, who has like washboard abs, man. Like this girl is solid. And she also hangs out with us and has a lot of friends, and she'll drink sometimes, but I don't think anybody sees like when she goes to the gym, they don't see what she eats every single day. And so it's like, all you see is Reagan out at the bar, like having a couple of beers.
Oh yeah, and you're
with
like, well, I
some
can do
friends.
that.
Yes, and you're like, why does she look like that? And it's like, well, you should see the way that she eats at home, because it's pretty fucking spotless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, hopefully we got something from that.